Here is the secret sauce to how I do this, how I've literally got thousands of Medicare clients and nobody does it.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Annuity Fundamentals. I am your host, Kylie Malat, joined by the one and only co-host, Mr. Ryan Anderson. And today we have a very special guest. You could call him the man in Idaho. Mr. Aaron Flake is here. He's joining us today, and he is the #1 Medicare agent in the state of Idaho. So we're excited to hear from him and to see how he got to #1 and see if he can give us any ideas how we can get to #1. So thank you so much, Aaron, for joining us, and we're excited to have you and excited to see what we can learn today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, let's go ahead and talk about what #1 in the state of Idaho means. Now, you've got a couple of IMOs you work with. I believe Kellogg is one of your IMOs, and you were the #1 producer for them, and they're a multi-state organization. Last year, you personally produced over 400 policies with one of the Medicare providers in the state. And I'm assuming there were other ones in addition to that. So that kind of personal production in one year puts you in a league all of your own. But that wasn't always the case. I mean, you didn't always have, your name synonymous with Medicare. That you, I believe you actually started as kind of with another nationwide organization as a captive or an LOA agent, and then kind of progressed through the business. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get to
Yeah.
where you are now?
Yeah, I'm happy to tell you about that. And I have to qualify that #1. Yeah, I was #1 with certain and #1 with Kellogg a few years ago, and there's other agents that are #1 with them now. But yeah, there was a year when Ron Kellogg brought me up on the stage and said, "Hey, great job for doing more Medicare policies than anybody else." But yeah, I mean, 14 years ago, 15 years ago, 2010, I started as an employee of United Healthcare. I was doing fine with the job. I was in a job and I loved what I was doing, but I had a friend, Craig Parker, who said, "Hey, you just got to go to lunch with this guy who does insurance. He's a manager for United Healthcare." And I said, "So I don't really. I'm happy with what I'm doing." He said, "It's just a free lunch. Just go." And I'm just like, "All right." I'm just a little curious. So ended up being a really great mentor, Richard Jones, who worked for United Healthcare, and he was a manager there in Meridian, Idaho, in Boise, and he really piqued my interest in what he was talking about with the residual income and having your own time and owning your own business. And then so for a year I worked as an employee of United Healthcare, kind of learned how to do Medicare. They owned the book of business. I was an employee, but eventually I was able to step out a year later and create my own business there, and then I was able to get licensed and appointed with a bunch of other insurance companies. But a lot of things he taught me really stuck and was part of my success. Is a lot of, and I tell him that I appreciate him kind of talking to me about how to build organically and build a good book of business.
You know what? I think a lot of our listeners, the agents out there, are wondering how, right? What is the secret sauce? How do you build a book of business? Can you talk a little bit about how you started? And
Sure.
obviously, when we start, it's like anything, right? We're not very good, and it takes a learning curve. And so, tell us a little bit about maybe your first year, one through five. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, yeah. So what I loved about, and again, I give him a lot of credit, Richard Jones and Craig Parker, my other mentor. The kind of there was a I'll just start by saying Richard Jones had this thing he called a board of directors. He said, when you're building in this thing, and he did some other types of insurances before that he had success built doing this kind of model of building a clientele. But Richard said, you need to have a CPA that is referring you business. You need to have someone who does like life insurance or some kind of financial products. You need to have an elder law attorney. You need to have all these people. You need to go to like work with someone who does like a guardian and fiduciary is what I want to say, like a conservator who helps people who are incapacitated. You need to have that kind of person working with. He kind of set up like there's all these different kinds of people, and you just need to get a few referrals from them a month, and just kind of work that way. But he called it a board of directors. And so I really took that to heart. And I was also at every health fair you could think of that was going on in my area. I was at all of these things. I knew all of the assisted living directors, and I just worked with them. So kind of to the chagrin of Kellogg, who I love and I'm under as an IMO. Ron Kellogg was really talking and pushing buying leads and doing it that way, buying leads, and they would go out and you kind of go and follow up on these leads nationally or locally. You could buy certain books, and I really liked, was my personality to do what Richard was teaching me, and Ron and I butted heads for a little bit about buying leads in that model, but the organic model that I did really seemed to work out at least better for me and a lot of agents that I worked with. And so that year 1 through 5 was a lot of just cultivating those relationships, working with, going to all the senior living or senior centers and having them refer to me, and just building a team of people that would refer to me over time, and working with those 200 people I got when I worked that first year with United Healthcare. I didn't get paid on them, but I was the servicing agent. So I could call them and say, hey, do you know anybody turning 65? Can you help me out? So that was really, but yeah, I mean, I was just hoping to make, 40, 50 grand that first year, and ended up doubling my income several years in those first 5 years. And that worked out. It was because of that organic growth. So,
One of the things that here that you and I met about 10 years ago for the first time. Uh, and when I sat down with you and I was like, and I was at that point in time, I was actually new in the Medicare space. And I was given your name as, hey, this guy's got game. And so I called you, and to your credit, I was actually with another IMO, and in your same physical space, as far as the same market you were in, and you took the time to teach me. And you said, here, let me show you this. And you didn't hold anything back. You sent me PowerPoints. You said, this is how you go through and do it. And I asked you, I point blank was like, dude, I'm not moving to your company. Why are you
right.
sharing this with me? And you said something that was really crazy. You said, I did this presentation in front of 400 people or 200 people last month. I can't remember. It was a large group of people. And I showed them it all, and nobody does it. I give them, here is the secret sauce to how I do this, how I've literally got thousands of Medicare clients, and nobody does it. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit? That's got to
Yeah.
be, I mean, you've been a trainer. I've seen you pop up at different events over the years. And to kind of talk about, why do you think that's the case, and what's the difference as far as how do you make sure, kind of get it to throw the spaghetti at the wall so it'll stick, I guess, to say.
Yeah. I I just feel like I was given a kind of a leg up with some of the mentors and people that I've worked with. And so that's kind of me giving the educational presentations is kind of giving back. I feel like to the agents, when I did this presentation to Kellogg, and it's called Organic Growth, and I kind of have a PowerPoint. I went through and I talked about a lot of what I did to get where I'm at. And I just feel like, let me back up for a second. I did my brother, my oldest brother. I'm the youngest of 5 brothers. My oldest brother was heavy into Amway and different network marketing companies. And so when he was teaching me, all about how to do these different network marketing companies. You'd have all these people from on stage in these different Amway and different companies that would kind of talk about how they got to where they got, and they would make an override from people in their organization. Well, I was very interested in that model. I thought, they talked about the concept of, instead of trading time for dollars, carrying a bucket over and over to fill up a well, building a pipeline, not getting paid for a long time on that work, but then turning on the spigot and then walking away and getting paid for the rest of your life. So I was really interested in that model. So when I learned with like Kellogg and these other these back then FMOs, IMOs, to do that, I thought, wow, so I can help people, but then also get paid from helping them, like not just sell, policies to Medicare individuals and make money that way and make residual. I can actually build an organization. So, but then I realized I'll help a certain amount of people, but even in those Kellogg presentations, all those people weren't on my team. There's hundreds of people that I'm giving this information to, and like this secret sauce you mentioned, and just trying to help people. And like I say, it's kind of my way of giving back. And I saw that same thing in network marketing, where there was a lot of big producers that would cross basically train and train people that they're never going to get paid on. So I kind of was into that, just helping people and giving back. So that's why, like with Kellogg and all those things, I was willing to do that, and I still am willing to do that. I still give presentations where other agents are there. Some of the secret sauce about that and the reasons why someone like you, Ryan, that I'm just happy to help and give information to. Some of the things that I really talk about is that organic growth and how to build a strong long-term organization. And I just feel like people like you, I feel like when I'm talking to however many hundred people, agents, there's only about less than 10% that will actually go do a lot of what I'm talking about. A lot of them get excited about it and then they
Hmm.
don't actually do it. So I'm really just talking to that 5 or 10% that are going to say, you know what, I'm going to do that. In one of those presentations, there's a guy, Monk is his last name, great guy in Arizona. And I gave one of these presentations to them, another guy, Caleb, who's in an organization in Arizona with Kellogg. And they're not in my line at all, but they heard me give that presentation. And then they implemented that in Arizona and Tucson and other areas. They went to these hospitals. I talked about going to hospitals and doing these educational presentations. They got the hospitals like I did to send out to their clients invitations to educational presentations that they did, and they were wildly successful. They were telling me about their numbers with working with those hospital systems. It was amazing the growth they had. And I just look at that and go, that's the guy I was talking to. I was in the 5 and 10%. I was talking to Caleb, and I was talking to Monk. They just did exactly what I said and just blew up. And I just am gratified that I was able to help do some of that. So yeah, I love helping agents.
You know what? You've said how help people probably a half a dozen times and giving back. And I swear there's a lot of agents out there who feel alone. And so I hope someone who is listening to this, who is feeling alone and saying, am I cut out for this? Do I want to continue with this? Know that there are people just like Aaron, just like Ryan and myself who are wanting to help you. And that's why we created this platform. And that's why he is doing these presentations, because he's right. Cody Askins has built a brand called 8% Nation. And it's 8% because 8% of insurance agents make it. And I firmly believe those who don't believe in themselves enough. They
Hmm.
really don't. And they don't search for help. Too often we think, I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to show weakness. And really, then you're just staying stagnant and you'll never get to that next level. It's talking with people like Aaron or joining a class, showing up at Aaron's presentation, or coming on to Annuity Fundamentals and saying, I got to do something different. And there are so many people that want to help you, but we can't start your engine. You have to do that. When he tells you that, 5 to 10% of people are actually going to do what he says, Aaron's wildly successful and only 5 to 10% actually do it. It takes some tenacity. It takes some self-love and saying, I can do this. And Aaron, how long you been in the business?
15 years.
15 years. Do you think Aaron was phenomenal his first year?
Nope.
But by year 15, is he a different agent? Absolutely. Aaron has mentioned he has 2 mentors. In the first 10 minutes of this, he said, oh, my mentor, my mentor, my mentor. It is so vital to have someone in your corner to give you that support and that mentorship and that leadership. There's so many independent agents, and when you're independent, you're alone. And there's
Yeah.
not a lot of people in that office firing you up. There's not a leaderboard saying who sold what to get your fire going. It's all on you. And so it does take something from within to say, I got to look outside. And maybe that's why you're listening to this podcast. So I hope you're hearing what Aaron's saying and saying, you know what? I want to help people because I know what it takes to be successful, and he's put in the work. He's been in the business for 15 years. Ryan's been in the business for 15 years. I've been in the business for 5. So out of the 3 of us, I'm the baby. So I'm telling you right now, call somebody to be a mentor for you. Ryan was my mentor. Doug McDermott is my mentor. Angelique Madsen is my mentor. If you're sitting here and you're listening and you're thinking, who's mine? It's time to find one. So
Okay. Now,
Aaron,
with
talk a
Couple
little
things real
bit
quick that
about
you
your
mentioned.
mentors. How did you meet them? Where did you find them? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, for mine, it was basically, you're asking me, right, Kylie?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, when that person, Craig, I guess I have to say all of the there were places I was in that really benefited me. Select Health and Insurance Company had these seminars that I was able to fit into with Craig Parker and a couple other people. We were able to do these seminars, and that really bumped me up. So I was in certain places to take advantage of opportunity, and so I can't pat myself on the back too much for certain things. I was just in the right place at the right time, but I kind of put myself there, and that's what I'd say to new agents. Like what you were saying is right on, where you have to put in the work and be in the place. I mean, do you know how many health fairs I went to that were, I remember this one called the O'Connor Field House in Caldwell, and it's cold and snowy and nobody showed up, and it's this big concrete building, and it was just cold the whole time, and it was just terrible, and I didn't get hardly one person. I mean, it was just not great. Do you know how many of those I sat through to get other ones where I walk away with, I remember walking away with like 22 of these permission to call forms from one thing that I did, and almost everybody was turning 65 and signed up in the next 6 months or so. I mean, it's so great. So it's just like, but how many did I sit through before to get there? And so to agents that are looking at this, going, okay, can I do this? Do I want to do this? You have to put in a lot of work. I remember with the network marketing thing, I had this whiteboard, and I had like, it said like, sales, and it was like goals slash actual. What goals slash actual, and how was I going to get that actual compared to the 10 sales I wanted a month? What was going to get me those 10 sales? What did I actually do? And I would mark them in green when I hit that goal. I would change the color to green for that month. And so by the end of the year, I could see how many were green, how many red. Did I hit that goal for that month? You got to be doing that. You got to be hungry enough to really want to put in all the work. And I'd go, okay, what are the activities that are going to get me to 10? So you break it down from the goal, and then you drop down to the activity level and say, okay, what are the activities? Where am I going to get those referrals? How? And then you break down and put it on your calendar. How many? Let's see. I'm going to go see 5 senior centers this week, so one a day. I'm going to go to X amount of assisted living locations. I'm going to go talk to just cold call how many senior living or elder law places in my area, right? So you kind of go from goal to activity to calendar to actually doing the actual work. So you got to put in that work. So I kind of went off there, but I'm just saying what you said about, you got to be the kind of person that's going to be self-motivated and really put in the work. Besides your mentors, someone like me can talk to them blue in the face about doing these things, but it's those people that actually do them that is gonna put forth the work. Does that make sense?
Amen.
It does. Now, so you said a couple of things here that really struck me here. And as you were saying, is like you were lucky, you were in the right spot at the right time, you had some good people. It's amazing to me how often I see hardworking people be lucky. As
Yeah,
far
right.
as as you go through, I think there's a direct correlation between, hey, that guy's so lucky, the one that works 15 hours a day and actually
Yeah,
puts the focus in. And we just got done with a meeting a wonderful young lady here on our last podcast that we just did, and she was talking about how she would work from six to, or she'd get up. Her kids were from 6 to 8, and then from 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock she was working, and then I mean she had her whole day broken down, and she said, as soon as I had that broken down, where I quit watching the game shows in the morning on TV, and I was able to focus on it, how prosperous I became almost immediately, where I quit making those excuses.
yeah,
And you've got 2 or 3 things here. I've got some notes here that I want to just kind of go over. So
yeah,
the first one of that is that 10 to 15% of the people you want to talk to, or whatever it was, when you go to a group of 100, we've noticed that the same thing here, that we'll go to an event and we'll have 100 people there and we'll talk to, and everybody's rah, rah, rah. Yeah, I want to do this. I want to sell annuities. I want to add annuities to my business. And we say, okay, and we'll give, here's the free class to take. Here's the steps and processes. This is the exact process that I personally used to go from $700,000 in annuity production to 7 million in a 12-month period of time. This is how I went from 100 grand to 1 year later, $300,000 in personal income. Here it is. Let me give it to you at no cost.
right.
And then they don't call. And as far as that, okay, or and then you also made another big shift there, and you went from a LOA, or so a license only agent, captive agent, to your
Yeah.
own agents, being an independent. So there had to be some income differences there. You talked briefly about that,
Yeah.
but if I hear this podcast and I hear you, my instincts are I want that guy, Aaron Flake, to be my mentor. How do I do that? And so, are you taking on agents? If you are, what are the requirements you have? Because I sit here and I've had people call me and say, "Hey, I would like to work with you." And I say, "Well, I know I am successful in this box. And if you fit into that box, let's talk. If you're not, I can't promise success and I don't want to waste your time and mine." So kind of go down that path. Are you looking to bring agents on? Are you where are you at with all that?
Yeah, so that's good questions there. So the license only model, I brought in few agents the last couple of years who came on to me. I told them the steps to do and the way I work, which I'll talk about.
Hmm.
In a year or two later, they left me, which is fine. I'm not about keeping anyone captive. Anyone comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to move to a different agency," I immediately sign them off with no problem. I will do a release, no problem. Well, this person, I just met with them the other day, brought me some cool camera stuff because I collect old cameras. Anyway, he went under another agency and is doing great because they have a different model. They have the LOA model. So let me talk about those two, and I'll tell you about me accepting new agents. LOA, license only agent, is generally a model where the agency owner keeps the book of business and pays out a percentage to the person, to the downline agent. Okay. And there may be a bunch of things with that. They may give them a small salary. They may give them an office. They provide them leads in a certain way. So there's a contract of, but the key is the industry or the agency owner owns that book of business, and it's not owned by the downline agent, which is fine and a fine way to start. Okay, I actually started as an employee, which is different than even being a license only agent. I was actual employee. Then I stepped out and became what's called a career agent, where you can only sell that United Healthcare or whatever for a year. And then I was like, well, I'm in my market. It's not. I need to sell all products. So I stepped out and was able to sell all products. So you can start as a license only agent and have a really good cushion if you need some income immediately, and they can do the thing where you have a draw off your sales. That's one way to do it. The way I do it, just for reasons that I've decided, the way I want to interact with my agents is I have just an override model. All I do is I get an override, like inside of Kellogg or any of these other um, plan advisors. They're all under integrity now, mostly. I just make a small override as people make sales, and that's all I make. It's just an administrative kind of override, and that's the way I like to do it. And that's how I'm bringing on agents. I was starting to say there was a agent that I worked with, a couple of them that started with me in this my type of model, and decided they wanted to go the other direction and have more support, and that was totally fine, and I let them have it. With that support comes some handcuffs. So you don't own that business. As soon as you want to walk away, you have to either buy that out from the agency owner, or have some kind of agreement, or just you leave it. You start new, and you have to build again. And so there's a couple different ways of doing that, but certainly I'm licensed in almost all the states in the West except for Colorado and Wyoming. And I love bringing on agents and training them and showing them what I do, and the steps to get started, and help with all of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of agents out there. I know I was one of them. I was with a hybrid, I would say it was a hybrid agency.
We
And
were
you're
LOA.
right. Yeah, hello. Okay. Thank you. And you're right. If you're wanting to go out on your own, it does come with handcuffs. There's no doubt about it. You have less control of your own business, but if you do want to go outside, you're starting over. I will say starting over with a base of knowledge is a lot easier than just starting fresh, not knowing anything, being independent. So there are pros and cons
Absolutely.
to starting out. I mean, no one does it perfect their first time. There's a learning curve for everybody, and rarely, I mean, I don't know anyone who's been an overnight success.
Yeah. Yep. There. I
Unless
mean,
they
there.
are 20 years in the business and then they're the overnight
Then they're the
success, right?
overnight
They're like,
success.
how did this guy come out? And it's like, well, I've been working for 15 years, so yeah, I better be the man by now, right?
And there's
So yeah,
different
I
people's
appreciate.
their situation. Like someone may have a certain financial thing where their wife makes a good
Yep.
income and they can go out and build this and they don't need that the income. They don't need the salary from somebody. And there's other people say, no, I to get started in this business, I'm going to need that salary to start off to so I can level up. And that's either way is fine. It's just I just don't like the administration personally. I'm kind of I've got all these rentals and all these other things, and I just try to make my life simple. So I have everything automated. And if I had to keep track of, then it doesn't work for me. I want to be snowmobiling and skiing and doing all kinds of fun things instead of worrying about having employees, and it's the last thing I want to do. So. And even having a license only agent is the next step away from having an employee. And I want to be even more. I want to help someone, kind of send them on their way and help over time with questions and help them build and whatever. But keeping track of income, and I don't want to do that.
I sit here and I look at that and I see this, and there's a common thread with the people that I see really successful in this business. And that is that they have built their business and their career around the lifestyle that they want, if that makes any sense. That,
Yeah.
again, that I sit here and I've got three non-negotiables for me. And I've got a buddy of mine, one of my best friends. He works for in the state of Washington, and I went through and I was like, and he's working 60, 80 hours a week. And I was like, dude, why don't you leave? It's like, that's just not how it is. And I was like, no, it is. You can move on. And number one, I have to have complete autonomy with my calendar. I am absolutely in control of it. And I'm talking to my friends that are not in the business. And I say, yeah, let's just go here, let's go there. And it's like, oh, let me, and I love this. Let me check my vacation time, how much time I have.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm sitting here looking at it, and I had a buddy of mine who's like, "How much vacation do you take?" He's like, "I don't know. I never calculated it." And I actually, after he asked me that, I looked at it, and I'm talking 2, 3 months a year,
Yeah.
and I never thought of it because that's the lifestyle that I want. So complete autonomy. Number two, I want there to be a direct correlation between my efforts and my income. That my buddy who works 80 hours a week, he doesn't make any more than if he worked 40 hours a week. And he's definitely not nearly as happy. And then the
Mhm.
other thing is I have to love what I do. As soon as it's no longer fun, then it's time to find something else. But it took me, it was about 15, 16 years ago that I came up with those. And now I'm 52 now. So I'm talking, I was in my late 30s before I figured out I can be happy at work. I can be happy at this, and I am the guy that's in charge. And so to sit down and to look at that, but I see individuals like yourself that more almost inherently know that, hey, if I do this, this will give me the lifestyle that I want. But,
Yeah.
and there's always this big but at the beginning, and that is I have to put my effort in first in order to get that down the road. I have to sacrifice now, and then I get lucky later. Is that a fair statement?
Totally. I think again it goes to that people just are raised differently or whatever with different work ethic. But I mean, again, this network marketing thing that my brother had me, he just had it in my head, drilled it in my head from the beginning, and I got to thank him for that. Is that you're gonna put in a lot of work, you're gonna work really hard, but in the network marketing thing, they talk all about lifestyle. It's they use the word lifestyle way more than income. Okay, income's one thing. You can
Yeah.
be a doctor and make lots of money and do, but you can work those 80 hours a week. I was going to be looking at being went to school for um, being a medical device rep, a pharmaceutical rep, then a medical device rep. But once I saw the hours that you work, and then the pressure and the year over year goals that they put, you do 200,000, now your goal next year is 400,000. I just look at my lifestyle, and you're so right about the time off. I'm here at the cabin today. I didn't have to ask anybody. I was able to build a cabin because of this business, and it's just I feel like being able to play around and pull my kids out on the snowmobile on the lake here. We're right off the lake in the Cascade. That kind of thing, the ability to do that is more important than whether I make two, three, four, 500 grand, whatever. It's the time off. It's the ability to have my own calendar, and that's what I love about this. It's all about lifestyle. You're right.
You know what, Aaron? We appreciate you being on. We're cutting it close on time, but I think the takeaway from this message is A, there's a lot of people out there to help you, and B, if you do this correctly and you follow the steps and you implement some systems, it will give you the lifestyle that you're looking for. On top of it, though, gosh, how good does it feel? How many people have you helped, Aaron? I mean,
Oh yeah.
really, you've been in the business 15 years. That's a tremendous amount of people you have served. And you have to come into this business wanting to help other people. If you don't have that desire, this isn't the business for you. This is a relationship business, and you are talking to people constantly. And so it takes time. And Ryan's right. Lucky, right? Aaron said it first. I was in the right time. I was just in the right space. I met people. I got lucked out. No, he didn't. He put himself there. So he put himself there. He got dressed. He did it. And that's what it takes to get lucky, right? You meet the right people at the right time, but it takes your effort. So, Aaron, we appreciate you so much for being on.
Yeah.
If you're interested in joining Aaron and his team, we'll get his information. It'll be in the comments below. If you're looking to add annuities to your business and say, okay, I have Medicare down and I want to go search for something and I want to get into the annuity space, check us out at Annuity Fundamentals, and we can take an exploratory phone call and see if adding annuity to your business is worth it for you. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Thank you.